Hello, guys. I'm going to start the presentation. So I'm Nicolas Wirrmann. I'm a product manager at Allegorithmic, product manager of Substance Designer, so the software I have just opened. And today I'm going to present you um, the substance integration that has been made directly in Cinema 4D. And then I will show you how to create a material from scratch in Substance Designer. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I've made, we bought a scene from Evermotion. Don't know if you know this website. And I replaced most of the textures by substances. So for those who don't know what a substance is, substances are just textures, but dynamic textures. So it's not just static bitmaps. A substance can have parameters. For example, the brick wall. A substance will allow you to change the color, the amount of bricks on X and Y, and stuff like that. But I will show you all of that in Substance Designer. So now, in Cinema 4D 18, you can load substances directly in Cinema 4D. It's very easy. And then you can tweak the parameters directly in the application. So I will switch to Cinema 4D. As you can see, I'm actually rendering the image. I will let it run in the background and just show you a bit the scene. Okay. So what's going on? Okay, actually, I think I will cancel the render. The rendering is kind of slowing my computer right now, so it takes a bit of time. Okay. Escape. All right. So in this scene, the brick is a substance, the wood on this furniture, as well as the wood on the armchair, the concrete on this wall, the concrete on the floor, the textile on the sofa, and so on. So all of these materials are substances. So to make sure you really understand what you can do with substance, I will create a material from scratch in Substance Designer. So this is Substance Designer. It's the application that we make at Allegorithmic. And I'm going to create a new package and a new graph. And then I will import this substance in Cinema 4D. So let's start with a new graph, like that. So this is a graph. It will define how your material will look like. Right now, I have nothing. I just have all these 4 nodes, which are the outputs of my material, so basically the final textures. So I'm going to select right-click and view outputs in 3D view. And it will send the outputs to the 3D view, so I'm able to visualize the material in real time. And I will just change the primitive and hide the environment. Okay, so right now my cube is all black because all my outputs are empty. So to start with, I will create uniform colors. So uniform colors are just, well, plain colors. So first uniform color for the base color. By the way, to create nodes, there are 3 ways. The first way to create nodes is the toolbar up here. On this part of the application, you have the library. So the library allows you to access all the content that we ship with Designer. So lots of noises, pattern generators, filters, and so on. And the last one is the spacebar menu, which allows you to look for look for content directly in the graph context. So for this output, the normal map, I'm going to create a normal filter. So the normal filter, you see that this node has an input. it takes a height map as input and converts it to a normal map. But if you don't plug anything to the normal map, it just returns a flat color. So I'm going to create another uniform color for the roughness. And finally, a uniform color for the metallic. So the metallic map is something that you may now be used to. But basically, the metallic texture allows you to define if your material is metallic or dielectric. And depending on the pixel color, if it's black or white, the shader will modify the reflection so that the material look like a metal or a plastic. So it's kind of a way to quickly define your material. So you just have to ask yourself, is it a metal or a plastic? You set black or white, and that's all. So for this demo, I'm going to create a metal material with some details in the roughness, and then I will create rust, procedural rust. I will blend the metal with rust, and I will expose some parameters. So to create a metal, I just adjust my base color, something like that. I will change a bit the roughness to get this kind of result. Okay. And for this demonstration, I will add some details in the roughness channel, because the roughness channel is really important nowadays with all the PBR rendering that we have today. And it's probably the most difficult texture to create, because in Photoshop, you just don't have a 3D preview, so you can't really pre-visualize the material in a real lighting context. And it's really hard to mentally visualize what the roughness channel will do on your material. So I'm going to create, to get a grunge texture from the library, like this one. So it's a bit slow. Anyway, so this texture, it's quite low resolution. I'm going to upscale everything. Right. So this texture is procedurally generated. So what does it mean exactly? It means that all the patterns that you see on screen are not static pixels. It's not a bitmap. It's generated using random functions, random patterns, and stuff like that. So it means that from this result, I can generate a different version of this image. And to do that, I just have to click on this random seed parameter and change the random seed value. And it will regenerate a new version of the texture. And actually, inside this node, you see that this node has a red color. It actually means that this node is an instance of a graph. And in fact, inside this node, we have a graph. So I can right-click Open Reference. And you see that inside the node, we have this graph, and all the red nodes that you see are also graphs. So in substance, you have nodes which contains graphs and so on. You have it's like Inception. You have multiple levels of graphs. So it means that the real power of Substance is that you can create your own tools, your own materials, and you can reuse them later. And people will just see a single node. So to blend my uniform color with this grunge matte to get all the scratches and details and so on, I will just create a blend node. So a blend node is like 2 layers in Photoshop. You have the background, the foreground, and the opacity. So I just plug my grunge map on the foreground input, and then I can adjust the opacity. And in this case, I'm going to change the blending mode to overlay. So this way I get only very subtle details. And actually, I'm going to invert this image like that. Okay, so I get kind of a dirty metal effect. So let's say I'm good with the metal part. Now I'm going to generate Rust procedurally. It will take 2 minutes. So first I need a noise, like this one. And for this demonstration, I would like to create a kind of leaking effect, so that, as if the Rust were leaking in this direction. So to do that, I will just create a directional warp and plug the same image in the second input. So the directional warp is a filter. His job is to distort the input image in function of the second image. So basically, depending on the pixel value, if it's white or black, the pixel will be shifted more or less. So it will create this kind of effect. So let's say I like this noise. Now to generate Rust, I need to colorize this grayscale image to a color. So to do that, I use a gradient map. So a gradient map is a filter that converts the grayscale value to color. So basically, for the black, I'm going to select a color, like something orange like that, and for the white, I'm going to select another color. So it's not really beautiful, so I'm going to use a nice feature which allows me to pick colors directly in an image. So to do that, I just have to open a Rust texture, like this one. So let's say I would like to pick multiple colors in this image. So I just have to open both at the same time, and I click on this button, Pick Gradient, and I will click and drag in the image like that, and it will sample all the colors that were below my stroke. So it's very useful for this kind of image. You don't have to pick color one by one. Okay. So let's say this will be my diffuse texture for the Rust, and now I just need to generate a mask to make the Rust visible or not. So to do that, well, first of all, I need to plug a blend node to my base color, plug the Rust to it. So this way I can adjust the opacity like that. But in this case, I would like to use a mask so that I get either metal or Rust. So to do that, I will duplicate these nodes. Okay. And I think I'm going to use a different noise just to see what it looks. And let's try with that. Okay. So I get this interesting effect. And I will plug this image to the opacity input of my blend node. So it's basically as if it was the layer mask in Photoshop. So obviously, in this case, I need to add more contrast to this image because I don't want either metal or Rust, but not in between values. So to do that, I will use a levels node. So it's really like in Photoshop. And I can adjust the keys to make my mask more or less contrasted. And you can see that it's quite interesting because in this case, if I move the two keys completely to the right, like that, my mask is completely black. So it means that I get only metal. And on the contrary, if I move the two keys completely to the left, the mask is white, so I get only Rust. So this way I will be able to adjust the amount of Rust over the metal. And actually, that's something that we do all the time, adjusting these two keys to adjust the look of the mask and adjust the position and the space. So we made a custom node that does that with two sliders. Instead of moving the two keys one by one, it's quite tedious. So we decided to make a custom node that does that with two sliders. So we did that. It's called the histogram scan. And today we use it all the time. So we just replace my levels with this histogram scan. And you see that this node has two parameters, position and contrast. At position 0, the mask is completely black. And at position 1, the mask is completely white, and in between it will go through all the intermediate values. And with the contrast, I will adjust the space between the two keys. So this way I can adjust the the interpolation between metal or rust. Okay. So I have blended my base color. So obviously now I also need to blend my roughness and my metallic channel to have a proper value for the rust and the metal. So I will just make some space like that. Okay, so this is the roughness channel. So I will just create a blend node as well. Okay, and I just need something for the, the roughness value for the rust. So I will use a uniform color. Okay, set it to something very rough. And I will duplicate the link that I've plugged to my blend node here using the control key. Okay, I got. And the final step is to do the same thing for the metallic channel because rust is not a metal, so it has to be black for the metallic channel. So I create another blend node, duplicate my uniform color, Control D, set it to black, plug that here, and duplicate the mask. Okay, so now I have a proper metal and rust values. And I can control the amount of rust on all these channels at the same time using a single parameter. So, well, it's cool, but now what if I would like to use this material inside another graph? Because I could duplicate all these nodes, and it would just take some place, and I won't be able to reutilize what I've done before. I would have to just copy and paste, and it's not really convenient. So if you want to reuse something you have done before, like this graph, into another graph, let's say I call this graph rusty metal. Okay. And I create a new graph. And you want to use the rusty metal inside this graph, you just have to drag and drop it, like that. So it's computing the material. And I will plug my outputs from this node. So you see that we get outputs on this node, the same as the one before. And I just select view, print it 3D view to get the result. So obviously, right now, I have exactly the same results as before. So for now, I can't do many things. I can do something. I can change the random seed. So basically, changing the random seed on this node will change the random seed of every nodes that are inside. So it will regenerate everything. But let's say we'd like to modify the amount of rust at this level. I need to kind of expose a parameter to get access to it in another graph. So to do that, it's very easy. I will just go on my histogram scan, and I would like to expose my position parameter, this parameter that adjusts the amount of rust. So to do that, I just click on this button, expose. I select new. I call it rust amount. Okay. And you see that once I have exposed my parameter, the slider is no longer available. It's because my parameter is not dynamic. And if I go back to my second graph and I click on my instance, I now have a slider to control the amount of rust. So basically, I can expose all the parameters. Any parameters of any node can be exposed. So you can control these parameters directly in an integration. And basically, you can control these parameters in Cinema 4D. So actually, for this demonstration, I think I'm going to import a 3D mesh. Like this small bike. Okay. So I will Well, I will visualize this graph on my object. So let's say remove all. Yep. All right. So right now I have applied my material to all parts of the object. And for this example, I'm going to add another effect. I would like to have a paint layer on top of the metal and rust to get something a bit more interesting. So I'm going to create a new uniform color that will be for the paint, like a red paint, like that. And I'm going to repeat the same process. So I create a blend node. Okay, plug the red paint here. And I will duplicate these nodes, actually, to control the mask. Okay. And instead of having a constant value, I'm going to expose this parameter to control the amount of paint. Okay, new paint amount, okay. And I will repeat the same steps I've done before. Okay, you see that it can be quite time consuming to create all these blend nodes. And actually we have custom nodes that allows you to blend materials in one click. But I don't use them for this demo, but you know that they exist. So this will be the glossiness, the roughness for the paint. Duplicate that, and I do the same here. Okay. I have to set it to black because the paint is not metal. And okay. So I have three materials, 3 layers in my materials: the paint, the metal, and the rust. And I can adjust them separately. So now I'm going to export this substance to be able to import it in Cinema 4D. So to do that, it's very easy. I just, on my package, first of all, I save it. I'll save it on the desktop, or no, in temporary folder, okay. And I just need to export the substance to a different file format, because we have 2 file formats, the .sbs, which is the source files, the graph, and we have the sbs-ar, which is an archive, which is the binary format of the substance. And this is this file, the sbs-ar, that you will import in Cinema 4D. So to export your substance to sbs-ar, you just click on this button, and I will export in my project folder. Okay. And I will go to Cinema 4D. And yeah, we'll go from scratch. So this is Cinema 4D R18. In R18, you now have a new menu in the pipeline menu here, Substance Engine. So basically, if you want to import a substance, you just click on Load Substance. You browse your files, and you look for the folder. So it should be here, text. Right. So my substance is here. Okay, you click OK. And it will automatically, in your material browser, create a new material with the substance applied. So basically, I have a new material, and everything has been set up automatically to get the same result as you had in Substance Designer. So everything you do in Designer, the 3D preview, it's a real-time 3D preview, OpenGL, PBR. Obviously, Cinema 4D does not use the same system, but when you import a substance, all the maps will be plugged to the correct channels, so you get exactly the same result. So basically, if you look at the reflectance channel, you can see that we have 2 layers for the reflectance, the dielectric and the metallic. And basically, the dielectric and metallic will be blended using the metallic map. So let's say I import my bike. So we'll merge import my FBX. Okay. So now I can just apply my rusty metal to the back parts. So this one, for example, and this one. All right. So here I got the result. And now if I go to my material and you click on, let's say the color channel, you click on the substance shader. And here you have access to the substance parameters and also a preview of the substance outputs. And you see that in the basic properties, you have the random seed, so you can generate a new version of the substance. And you also have the rust amount, so you can change the rust amount here. At 0, there's no rust, and at 1, it's fully rusty. I can change the metal color. Actually, it's not the metal color, it's the paint color, but it's... I don't know, actually. And I can change the... I think I've not exported the white substance. Let me look at that. Export. It's because I made the demonstration quite a lot of time, and it was probably an older version. So I will go to my substance engine. You have the substance asset manager, which allows you to display all the substances that you have in your project. And here you can remove a substance. And I will import it again. So it should be rusty metal and not metal rusty. Okay, it's better. All right, okay. So now I can go to my substance properties, set the rust amount to 0.25 and set the paint to 0. So it's cool, but I would like to use the same substance for multiple parts of my mesh. But obviously I don't want to have rust on this part, but only paint on this part and so on. So what you can do in the substance asset manager, you can duplicate a substance. So right-click, duplicate with materials. And it will create a new material based on this new instance. So the two substances are independent. You can modify parameter on one substance, it won't affect the other. So for this substance instance, I'm going to use it for the red paint here. And I will modify the parameter to have only paint. Okay. And for this material, I can also use the same material. I don't think I will make a render of this image because it takes quite a long time to render. But I can't really show a nice 3D preview. But well, you have the 3D preview of Substance Designer that has disappeared for some reason. So well, this is how it works. It's pretty simple. You import substances, you apply the substance materials to your object, and you work as you do in general. So a quick note on the substance plugin. So initially, it was developed by Allegorithmic for R17. And for R18, Maxon took our code and integrated it directly in Maxon. And I must say that they did a really good job. Substance is really nice integrated in Cinema 4D. And so I still have a bit of time, so I'm going to show you another example of creating a material, but this time not using procedural textures, but using bitmaps as a base. So that's probably what people do most of the time. They take a picture from the internet, and they go in Photoshop and they tweak the texture to generate a diffuse, specular, glossiness maps, and so on. And I will show you the same process, but in Substance Designer. And you will see that how useful is the application, and especially the 3D view. So we'll create a new package, create a new graph, okay, and I will import a bitmap. So I took some textures from CG Texture. They should be in my downloads. Concrete. Okay. So yeah, I would like to make a material to replace my my concrete material that I have right now. So to import your bitmap, you just drag and drop your bitmap in the graph, and it creates a simple node. So I will just right-click the outputs in 3D view and plug this bitmap directly to the base color channel. So this way I can visualize it in the 3D view. So for now it looks very glossy and not really interesting. So we start by generating a normal map from this texture. So what you probably do in Photoshop, you convert your texture to grayscale, and then you adjust levels and stuff like that to generate a height map, and then you convert the height map to a normal map with probably the NVIDIA plugin. So we'll do the same thing. I convert my texture to grayscale using a grayscale conversion, like that. And I will use a level to clamp the bright values, like that. And finally, I will just plug this image to a normal filter to generate a normal map. And I just plug that to the output, and I get immediately the results. So this way you can fine-tune your level to get more or less noise. All right. So now obviously I need to also adjust the glossiness of my material because it's really too glossy right now. So I will actually duplicate these levels, and I'm going to invert it. So we'll just switch these two keys, like that, and plug this result to my roughness. And now I just adjust the output to get something more or less rough. Okay, like that. Okay, so this way the material becomes a lot more interesting. Okay, and for the metallic channel, I will just plug a uniform color to say it's not a metal, I use black. Okay. So let's say I'm happy with that. So you see it's not really complicated, very few nodes. And it's basically the same thing that you do in Photoshop. But now we'd like to add some dirt on top of that to make it, as it was outside for a long time, and you had some leaks on your material. So we'll use another bitmap for the dirt. I'll link it right now. And the first thing you may notice is that this texture is not tiling. The shortcut for the tiling is a spacebar. So I should make this texture tile before doing anything. So we have a node for that. It's called make it tile. Okay. So it's a custom node that we have done. And it basically does the same thing as most people do, meaning they duplicate the image, they make an offset of it of 0.5, and then they will paint a mask to make to hide the seams. And on this node, you can adjust some parameters to modify the look of the mask. So now my texture is tiling. I will just blend my previous base color with the dirt texture, like that. And obviously, I would like to use a mask to make the dirt visible only on some area. So what I can do is taking my this result, okay? Because I would like the dirt to appear only on, like, as if, yeah, it was leaking dirt. So I will invert this image and clone the values like that. And I will use another custom node called the slope blur. So the slope blur is a very powerful tool. It basically allows you to blur an image based on another image, based on the slope of another image. So in this case, if I want to blur the image on the vertical axis, I need an image that represents the slope of this axis. So basically, it's a gradient. So this gradient represents kind of a slope in the vertical axis. So I plug that to the slope input. And you see that it blurs the image vertically. And I can adjust the blur amount. And you have also this mode parameter, which allows you to change the way all the samples are accumulated. And in this case, if I set this to max, it will kind of generate a trail for all the pixels and generate a kind of flicking effect. So I will use this result, and I'm going to add some contrast as well, like that. And I will blend this result with a noise. Actually, I will repeat the same process as I did for the rust, like that. Okay. And I will change the resolution as well. I've not talked about it, but about the resolution, since everything is procedural, you can change the resolution at any time. So you don't have to create your document at 2K, then don't scale it to 1K or stuff like that. You can work at a resolution, and at the end, you can switch to 2K, 4K, whatever, to generate the final result. And you can tweak this resolution in Cinema 4D as well. So I have this noise. I will blend my leaking effect with the noise using a blend node, like that. And I will set the blending mode to multiply. And last thing, I will use an histogram scan, the same node as before, which will allow me to control the amount of dirt on my material. And I will use this result as the mask. Here. All right. So at 0, the wall is clean, and at 1, it will be completely dirty. And I will blend also the roughness, because the dirt will be more rough than the rest of the material. So it's the same process. Well, let's say I can use this image for the roughness. That's the advantage of the graph. You can reuse intermediate results for everything you like. So if you like this image and you want to use this image for the dirt roughness, you can do that. And in this case, I will just use another levels to adjust the values. The more it's white, the more it will be rough. Plug that to the blend, and we use the same mask to blend the two roughness value. Like that. Okay. So, well, I'm pretty done. I will just expose the position value so I can adjust the amount of dirt in Cinema 4D. So I click on this, expose. I call it dirt amount. Okay. Okay, and then I will just publish this substance. I just call it concrete dirty. Save this package. And click on this button to export my substance. Concrete dirty. Okay. So it's exporting. And I switched back to Cinema 4D. Open the Substance Asset Manager. I click on File, Load Substance, and I load Concrete Dirty. Okay. It generates automatically the outputs, and then I just have to drag and drop my substance like that, and I will just for the demonstration adjust the resolution. Okay. And once you have your substance and you want to adjust the amount of dirt, I just go to the substance shader and here just this value. So you see it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so I'm almost done with my demonstration. We will have time for a few questions, but before we do that, I just would like to show you a completely different example of substance usage. So it should be here. Okay. So this is a completely different substance I made quite some time ago. Basically, this substance it is animated. And how this is made, it's made in Substance Designer as well. So we use a node called fxmap, which allows you to draw all these complex noises and patterns. And what I've done for this example, I have painted a vector map that we also call a flow map in Photoshop. So there are various techniques to do that. You can use Photoshop or another software. So I painted over the Van Gogh painting, and it gives me special colors for all the stroke orientation. And basically, in Substance Designer, we have the fxmap nodes, which allows you to sample these colors, which are vectors, actually. And in Designer, we can draw the patterns, so all the stroke patterns you see here, and we can orientate them in function of the vectors. So we just make few computation, and the strokes will be in the right direction. And to make something animated like that, I just move the patterns in the direction of the vector. I move them just a little, and they disappear, and then they reappear at their original position. So it makes a loop like that, and it gives the illusion that the painting is moving. And I've exposed lots of parameters, so you can make it more or less change the speed, change the shape if you want more or less patterns, so it will be more or less defined like that. Adjust the rotation of the pattern, so I just add the rotation value to the initial rotation value, and make them use the color from the original painting or not, and stuff like that. So initially, it was a proof of concept. So someone asked me if they could have, they wanted to animate patterns for like to simulate the wind you see on the map, and they wanted to visualize the wind flow with stuff like that. So I did that, and I thought it would be nice to apply this process to the painting. So that's the origin of that. And so technically, you should be able, I've not tested it, you should be able to import this substance in Cinema 4D. And basically, the time that we have in Substance Player would be the timeline of Cinema 4D. So if you scroll the timeline in Cinema 4D, it will be automatically animated. All right, so I think I'm done with the demonstration. Now, if you have any question, it's time. Or if you are too shy, I will be on the booth for quite some time after. Yes? I can't hear anything, sorry. I don't know if there is a microphone for the. Is there a microphone for the public, or you can just come? Yeah.
I was wondering how the integration would be with Octane, and if it's
Okay.
possible to convert materials.
With I've not tested Octane render in Cinema 4D, but I know that with VOA it works. So I think that normally you should be able to use the substance shader for Octane, but it has to be confirmed.
Yeah, you have to convert the 4 channels.
Yeah, but yeah, you will have to plug the substance outputs manually to the Octane shader because obviously the Cinema 4D team has made something automatic for the Cinema 4D shader, but not for the third-party shaders.
Yeah.
So maybe so that's something that could be done with a script. I don't know.
Okay. Or maybe
But
in the future.
maybe in the future, yeah. Or maybe if Otoy wants to do it, they can provide a script to automate this process.
Yeah. But you can still change your materials and put them in manually and convert them.
Yeah, normally I've not tested it, but it should be possible. Yeah,
Okay.
just to be
Thank you.
confirmed. You're welcome. Any more? Yes, you have a question?
Could you show the gradient remapping? We were just talking on the side about the color gradient remapping. And
Yeah.
this is the best tool of substance. I was really curious.
Oh, yeah, cool. So yeah,
Could you show the gradient remapping in the substance? We were just talking on the side, and people were really impressed.
so you mean this gradient map and the peak gradient?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you draw a line and it picks colors.
Yeah. So well, let's say I have this image. I convert it to grayscale because obviously the gradient map takes a grayscale input. Grayscale conversion. Okay. And yeah, you can to enable this feature, you have to click on the gradient editor, and then you have this peak gradient. So the peak gradient works in the full screen. So basically, I can pick in the 3D view. It will work. But well, let's say I don't know if I still have the rust texture. Yeah. So it was best with 2 screens, obviously. Okay, so you just click on the button, and you click and drag, and it generates all the keys. And there is another way to get a similar result, actually. You can import the rust texture in the graph, like that. And you can use a different node that is called the gradient dynamic. And this node has 2 inputs. So the first input will be exactly like the gradient map, the image you want to remap. And the second input will be the image you want to take the gradient from. So you plug the rust image here, and basically you will just change the coordinate you want to sample. So it will just sample a 1-dimension pixel column in this image, and you just say where you want to sample this gradient. So basically you could have a very complex texture with lots of gradients, and you could expose this parameter to be able to control it in Cinema 4D. That was the goal of this node. You're welcome. Any more questions? Okay. So thank you for your attention, and have a nice IBC.